Thanks for the amazing response you have shared on the first video, and that motivate me to make the second part of the video in which we're going to discuss the further steps of the threat intel program. My name is Prab Nair. For more information, you can check my LinkedIn profile. So without wasting a time, let's start with the next part. Thank you. I highly recommend to check my the part 1 of the video, then only you can able to understand the part 2. In the previous video, we have done till threat intel agreement, which you having with the other parties. After having agreement, we need to have a integrations. Okay, so that is my next step, incident response integration from a holistic point of view. So incident response integration involve the incorporation of a threat intel into an organization incident response process, by which we can able to enhance the ability to detect the incidents, respond to the incidents, and mitigate the security incidents effectively. And by integrating the threat intel into the incident response process, we can able to improve the workflow. The organization also gain the valuable context about the threat and attacker, and it leading to more informed decisions and more robust incident response process. So that is why we always recommend to have an integration of incident response with other service management functions. So apart from that, it is very important, you need to document how the threat intel integrate with the incident response process, and you also need to create a kind of a playbook that incorporate the threat intel inside. Example, if the threat is discovered, how to respond to the threat, how to prioritize. So we need to integrate that. And for that, we need to create one document which is basically called as an incident response playbook. So let me show you one sample which I created for one of my customers. So from that point of view, you get a better visibility. So team, this is basically called as a threat intel incident response playbook. So first I need to define the purpose of this playbook. So I define here that this playbook provides the structure guide to responding to any incident, because I want a uniformity of approach and ensure the coordinated, effective, and informed response to mitigate the impact of security incidents. Then we talk about the scope, like this particular playbook is applicable for what? It basically cover the incidents. It include not limited data breach, malware infections, phishing attack, unauthorized access attempts. And then we basically talk about the integration part. Here you can see the integration, like it need to be integrated with my real time to enhance the visibility. How to classify the incidents based on a severity and impact. Okay, so we have that. If any incident happen, we need to respond to that. We need to confirm the incident. Then we need to consult the threat intel feed to alert to identify known threats, determine if incident align with the known threat attack techniques and trends, so how to manage that. Then we need to apply the incident analysis and triage phase, where we gather the evidence and analyze the attack vector. Then we have a integrations, which is all about correlating the functions and all that. Then we talking about determining the techniques, tactics, and procedure, isolate the incident. Then we are integrating with other solutions, like to identify that do we have IOCs or do we have external systems. Then we have a eradication recovery phase, where we remove the system and apply the patch, validate the effectiveness, and then how to communicate, how to integrate with the report point of view, what is a post-incident response. Then we incorporate the threat intel insight into post-incident response. So if you notice, threat intel integration is coming in every phase of the incident response function. And then finally, we have a document review and approval. So this is how the playbook, it means step-by-step process we have to follow, by which we can able to prioritize the incidents or respond to the incident. So it is very important to create a rule book. And if you're new to the system and all that, it is good to create such kind of a rule book which talk about the step-by-step process. Okay. Then we talk about the continuous monitoring and feedback. That's another important step we have, because threats is something which constantly change. So threat intel need to have a continuous monitoring and the feedback, so that, based on that, we can able to improve the program. And threat intelligence, continuous monitoring and feedback is always an ongoing process. And with the threat intel program, we can continuously track, analyze all the threats and ensure that it's relevant and effectiveness. Now question is basically what activity we need to consider here. So we need to document the procedure, how to do the continuous monitoring. We need to also document how to work on the feedback loops. And for that only, we bring one documentation, which is basically called as a continuous monitoring and feedback framework. So it is good to create such kind of a framework by which you can able to improve the overall threat intel program. So let me show you one sample. So by that you get a visibility. So team, this is basically called as a threat intelligence continuous monitoring feedback framework. So if you can see here, it is designed to establish ongoing process for monitoring threat intel activity. It is very important to create a monitoring framework by which you can able to improve the program. So when you're creating such kind of a procedure or template or document, give the objective of that particular process. Like we can able to continuously monitor the threat intel source, because here we need to verify the integrity and authenticity, collect the feedback from internal stakeholders. By doing a monitoring, we can enhance our decision making capability and improve the threat intel framework. Now, what is a framework component? So first part of the component is called as a continuous threat monitoring, where we need to identify and onboard all the sources. We using tools and monitor the indicators. That is part of a first step. Second is basically collect the feedback from the stakeholder. Okay, whatever we are collecting a threat feed, does it meeting the objectives? So identify, engage the key stakeholders, establish the feedback channels. That's a very important thing. Otherwise, what happen? Unnecessary we collecting a threat feed which is not even relevant to the system. Then data integrations. Okay, we can able to integrate with the different platforms, and we try to collaborate to have a entire visibility. We look for the actionable insights. We prioritize threat based on impact and develop the mitigation strategy. And then we have a continuous improvement loop where we regularly review the effectiveness of the threat intel insight. We incorporate the feedbacks and also adopt evolving the threat landscape by identifying the new source. Next part, we talk about the roles and responsibility toward the monitoring. Okay, so threat intel responsibility, stakeholder responsibility, incident responder and management we can document. And finally, we have a document review and process. So that's something we can basically streamline. Now, now once we're done with the monitoring and all that, we need to have a reporting and communication. Reporting and communication is very important, team, because it is basically a crucial aspect of any effective threat intel program. So clear and actionable reporting we need to have, so we can ensure that all the insights which is derived from threat intels are communicated to the right stakeholders in a way that enable the informed decision making and appropriate response. So it is good you can able to create one common template by which you can notify the people, and you can also define the reporting frequencies, what is the format and key metrics. And with continuation with that, you can basically create one template for that. So let me show you one example. What is a template we have? So here when you're talking about threat intel reporting template, it means about the overall outcome of the threat intel function, what we're doing. Because in a previous step, we're doing a monitoring, and during a monitoring, if we discover any kind of a gaps and all that, how to improve, what is the feedback. So we need to notify the stakeholders. So for that, we're preparing a report. So I will show you the sample of the report template. So this is how you need to create a complete report. Give the name, give the date, then talk about the summary, like in the past month. So this is sample, okay, how I created a report, like, threat landscape has exhibit increased activity by APD 29 threat actor group. And then we talk about the key threat indicators, IP address are this, these are the domains, these are the hashes that we have discovered. Then we have a threat analysis of actor. So we're giving the information about threat actor. Okay. Then what is the vulnerability insight they're going to exploit? Do we have any incident in past? So that is incident analysis report, recommendation, and the conclusion. So this is how you can able to create a threat intel report. So your report should include the indicator of threat actor analysis, vulnerability insights, and incident analysis and recommendation. So that is something is required. Okay, so it's very important. Subject to the business requirement, we can able to generate a report monthly basis, weekly basis, daily basis. Okay, or if you discover some critical issues and all that, for that you need to create a report. You can create such kind of a report. Moving to the next part is called as a continuous improvement. So we did the monitoring, we prepare the report. Based on that, we need to improve the overall program. So threat intel continuous improvement, when I say, it is a systematic approach to enhancing the effectiveness and efficiency of the overall program. And how we do that? By doing a continuous refining of the process. So continuously refining your processes, updating your tools, learning from experience, so you can stay ahead. And you can basically stay ahead of evolving threats and ensure that your threat intel efforts remain relevant and valuable. And for that, we basically building one program which is called as a threat intel program review and improvement plan. So this is also I prepare for one of the customers. So let me show you the sample of that. Okay. So you can say this is like a maturity assessment. Example, my current threat intel system is basically level 1. I want to move to level 2. So what we have and what we need to achieve. So that is between that we do the gap assessment. So we're talking about right now introduction, like this is the area of improvement and goal to ensure that it remain effective. So we did the current state of assessment where we identify the data source, stakeholder engagement is there. So example, like we have reviewed the intelligence sources, we evaluate the effect in data collection method, and we also gauge the stakeholder satisfaction engagement. So that is something is a current state we have. Now based on that, I did the gap assessment where I identify gaps and shortcomings. Example, like we identify potential gaps in threat coverage, emerging threat actors and attack technique are not adequately addressed. We also assess whether current threat intel output meet the need of incident response is not meeting definitely. We also determine if the technology's limitations are there. So that is how we did the gap identification. Then we talk about the improvement goals and objectives. So we have examples like, we need to enhance the threat detection capability, improve the speed and accuracy, strengthen the integrations. And then we talk about the plan for enhancement. Okay, like example, identify the threat intel feeds, implement the automate tools, establish the regular feedbacks. Then we also identify we have a limited resource, so we need to assign dedicated threat intel analysis, which was missing. We have to invest in the threat intel platform, which was missing. We need to allocate budget for training, so we need to train some people. So this is only we get when we did the gap assessment. Then during execution implementation, we have a steps. Then we have a measurement and evaluation. This is the steps. Then we have a continuous. So this is how you basically creating a template, okay, of your gap reports. Okay. Moral story is that first we need to have a monitoring program in place. Based on that, we basically collect the metrics, generate a report, and then improve the overall program. So this is how the report you have to create. The second most important thing, we have a compliance and legal consideration. Very, very important thing. Okay, so we can involve a legal person here. Okay, so the threat intel compliance and legal consideration is very important. You should not collect any feed which can breach the privacies. And you are sharing some threat intel outside the country and all that. So we have to review all the legal issues. So we have to document all the compliance requirement. Is it allowed to collect the feed? Is it allowed to share the feed outside the countries? So there is a one template I have created, which is called as a threat intel compliance and legal guideline. Okay, so I always recommend that nowadays from a privacy point of view, it is very important to have the template. So let me show you one sample of that. So this is basically called as a legal guideline. Example, first you need to pen down what is the data privacy protection requirement we have. Suppose I am involved in EU. Okay, I'm building a threat intel for one company which is based out in EU, or I'm based out in Canada. Okay, so I need to identify the current legal regulatory requirement. Okay, example like threat intel analyst must avoid collecting PII information. All threat intel data stored in the database must be encrypted. So because it's a requirement from privacy point of view, so when you're collecting threats and all that, or intels and all that, we should comply with the legal. Now here we have a information sharing confidentiality. So we share the threat intel information with a legal framework. So example, like before sharing a threat intel with external, verify the credibility, ensure shared intel data is appropriately sanitized, because it's a GDPR requirement. I'm just giving example. Then we also have a import and export requirement. In some countries basically have a import export. Example, you cannot import that, you cannot export that. So we have to review that, and according to that, we will take a call. So here we have example, before sharing threat intel with the international partner, validate the recipient are not listed on any relevant export controls. Because we have a Wassenaar arrangement. There's one international agreement, we have Wassenaar arrangement, or US basically have their own ITAR regulations where they cannot export any kind of arms and ammunition. I'm just giving example here. So we have to review all those things. Remember BlackBerry case with messaging app, then a Telegram is banned in some countries, WhatsApp is banned in some countries. So we need to review all the export controls or import controls. We also need to make sure that everything we'll do within an intellectual property requirement. We should not collect the data which can breach the intellectual property. Okay, seek the legal counsel when dealing with the complexities. Okay, collaborate with the legal compliance team during the incident response process. Now let's take an example. In GDPR, we have a data breach reporting in 72 hours. In India, we have a 6 hour. So we have to make sure whatever the data we're collecting, it should be compliance with the legal regulatory requirement. And this is a very important document to prepare. So my threat intel team can review this, and according to that, they can able to process and collect the data. Okay, it's a very important stuff. Now next thing is basically called as a training and awareness. See, just building a program, it will not be effective until unless you trained people on that particular skill. So when it comes to the security part, we have a two dimension. One is basically we trained people, overall all the employees, by which we can able to improve the behavior. And we have to also upgrade our existing candidates who working on the in the threat intel, so that they can be proactively up to date with the new threats and everything. So when we're building a threat intel, it is not only limited to the solutions. So we need to document the training materials and resource for educating employees about threat intel program. If user receiving any suspicious mails and all that, he has to report. So we need to provide the awareness program. Okay, how to define the awareness program. If I'm hiring a person for the SOC, how to provide the thing. So that is part of the program. So we include the guideline for raising the awareness about the importance of threat intel across the organization. That's something we must do. And when you're talking about training content here, I have divided into three parts. One is basically about threat intel fundamental, which talk about key concepts and everything. Second, we have a threat intel integrations, okay, where the model will be focused on how to integrate threat intel into daily security operations and incident response. And the last part is called as the advanced threat intel analysis or advanced threat analysis, a module for cybersecurity professionals covering the advanced techniques in a threat analysis, attributions, and threat actor profiling. Over to that, we also have another important thing. We can have a playbook. It is good to have a playbook. Okay, so we can develop some kind of a practical playbook that guide employees through the different threat scenarios, explaining about how to identify the threat, respond, and mitigate. I already explained you one playbook. Example, like here I'm taking example of two playbooks. One is called as a phishing threat intel playbook, which talk about the step-by-step on how to identify phishing emails, analyze associate indicators, and report incidents. And then we also have a ransomware mitigation playbook, a playbook detail action. You can, when facing a ransomware attack, utilizing a threat intel for response and recovery. Along with that, we can also have a knowledge base and resource. We can create one common repository of all the threat intel resources, articles, videos, guides that employee can access to deepen their understanding. Example, we can have a threat intel glossary, which is a comprehensive list of the key terms and concept which is used in a threat intel. Then we have a case studies, real world case studies, which showcase about how the threat intelligence insights have led to the successful incident response mitigation. Then we also have a security awareness campaign on a regular basis. We can launch on a regular basis, which focus on threat intel topics, encouraging employee to stay vigilant and report potential threats. Example, we can have a monthly threat spotlight. Example, I'd highlight the specific threat types or attack techniques each month, providing tips to recognize and respond to it. We can also have a reporting and reward campaign where we can encourage employees on the how to report the suspicious emails and activities and everything. Okay, so these are kind of things which we can have, by which we can able to improve the program. Now, last part is basically called as a program evaluation metrics. So we have built a program, but how effective is the program? How mature is the program? I'm talking about overall threat intel. Okay, so that we need to identify. So we have to introduce a KPI and KGI. I have already created one dedicated video how to create a KPI and KRI for any process. But here we need to have some kind of a matrix by which we can able to measure the effectiveness, efficiency, and impact. We can establish the metrics and evaluation process to determine how well your program is performing. We identify the area of improvement. We document the metrics and KPI. And more important part is we need to specify how often evaluation will be conducted. So let me show you one example of that so you get a better visibility. So this is how you can create a metrics document. We can define the objectives. There's a dedicated video I have created in which I talk about how to create a KPI and KRI. This is the KPI we have for the threat intel, like number of threat detected, preventive, average time, okay, improvement, reduction. We can even establish the baseline metrics. We can have 3 time wrong attempt can be the baseline, or a particular IP intrusion attempt can be the baseline. So we can gather data to establish a baseline before implementing, or basal metrics can provide the reference point. Then we have a data collection analysis. We continuously collect the data which is related to the chosen KPI. Okay, like example, we have a number of threat detected and prevented. So based on that, we collect the data. So based on that, we identify the trend, pattern, and anomalies. Then we conduct the periodic evaluation of a threat intel program. We also determine the program meeting the objectives. Then we also have a feedback from the stakeholder. And then we have a cost effectiveness where we determine the ROI. So we need to have a dedicated matrix for ROI also. And then we have to see, is it achieving my business goals? And then we can use against the industry benchmarks and identify the area for the program improvement. And based on that, I will prepare the reports and develop the continuous program. So that is how we basically create a matrix and able to improve the function. So this is all from my side, team. Do let me know how do you find this particular overall session to build the threat intel program, and let me know, shall I make more videos like that which create more value in your life and it help you to upgrade your skills. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos with a similar topic. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye.